and welcome back to our yearly goal setting sessions, November 2023. We are on to part 3. I'm in a very good mood today. Very good mood. Finally got my medication changed over. Nice national shortage. Got to love a national shortage of a daily medication that you take with no notice.
Oh wow.
Yeah, left me for a whole month without anything, because the doctors kept saying they were sorting it. They weren't. And in the end, I went back to my specialist and said, can we go on to plan B? And so my specialist has moved me on to a different medication, which does mean I need to remember to take 3 separate tablets across the day instead. But it's been so nice today that I think I'll remember. Like, put a little bit in a little pouch in my wallet. It's all good. The irony being that they help me with my short-term memory, and one of the things I've now got to do is remember to take them. Never mind. Anyway, we digress already. We are on to part 3. So we've done a lot of reviewing, we've done a lot of brainstorming, we've started to get the juices going, thinking about what it is that we want to achieve within next year. And now we need to start making them into slightly more actionable steps. So today is predominantly about defining those yearly goals, making them more defined. And as with each of these sessions, though, it doesn't need to all get done. Well, it's not going to get done in the 30 minutes anyway, but it doesn't need to all get done today. This is why we have the 5th session right at the end of the month, so we've got a chance to process it and go through things and just let ourselves mull over. Like, these are big decisions. They're not world altering, and we can change our minds, but it's nice to not sort of spontaneously react. It's nice to give ourselves a little bit of space and things and to think about them. So do not panic if you look at this and go, I have no idea. It's just a process. You can come back to the recording and listen through again and again. And that's what I think is quite nice, having them in these separate chunks. You can go back through and oh yeah, I'm sure Jess said something about that, but I can't remember what it was. And go back through and have a listen. So to start with, one of the key things, and we do this with our monthlies when we set our monthly goals, is to understand what we've got coming up in this next year anyway, before we plan our goals and things. So like we do with our month, we do our monthly overview. We need to do a little bit of a yearly overview. I quite like doing this in color coding, so I'll do a different color for each of the sections, but I'll put in key areas, basically anything that's key areas that's going to disrupt the flow of like a regular routine. So holidays, if you know you're aiming to do a 2-week holiday in August, then write that in. If you know that you are away for all of June on holiday, then write that in. Birthdays, if you've got any key birthdays within your life that are important, so your own. We tend to find one way or the other, our own birthday always disrupts the flow of things. Either we get very reflective, or hopefully there's lots of people spoiling us. Hopefully our birthdays have some sort of disruption to the flow of life and some sort of celebration, because they're important. But also for me, little one's birthday, and that'll be about it this year. I only need to put 2 on, unless some lucky guy worms his way into my heart. But it's pretty icy in there, so they probably won't want to. Anyway, I digress again. Birthdays are key people, key anniversaries. So if you have, this could be a happy or a sad thing. I tend to find I don't get too sad over my mum's anniversary, the anniversary of her passing away, and my other dear friend that passed away in January. Obviously, her anniversary hasn't come up yet, but I do find birthdays of the people very hard. So this past weekend, the 4th of November was Lucy's birthday, and so I'd scheduled lots and lots of things to keep me very, very busy. But then on Sunday, I had a big crash and reflection. Oh no, not Sunday, Saturday, big sort of crash and reflection about it. And the dog I was dog sitting was not very impressed by the fireworks. So she was cuddling me, and then I got sad, and I was cuddling her for the fireworks, and she cuddled me as I reflected on that anniversary. And so it's my friend's birthday, but for me, that's more like an anniversary of something sad, and allowing myself the space for that. It depends with something like that in grief. You kind of never know how big it's going to impact. It could throw your whole month. It could just be a day, just be a weekend. Like it's and just because it isn't throwing you for the entire month does not mean that you're not grieving. I think we constantly grieve, but there are times when it can become overwhelming. Other anniversaries, like if you've got golden wedding anniversary, or oh, literally can't think of any other. It's all relationship based anniversaries, isn't it? Really. Anniversary of passing the bar, just because I can't think of anything else. So any key anniversaries that could disrupt the flow, things that might need celebrating or commiserating, that kind of thing, are worth putting on your yearly overview as well. Work deadlines. So if you know you are releasing your new book in September, then pop that in, because that's a very clear deadline. If you know that you have tax returns due, so my tax year runs April to April, and I like to get my tax return in by the end of May. Never get why people are still faffing about in January. If it's that complicated, get someone else to do it. So I like to put into May, do my tax return, so that I've got that in there. I like to write Christmas in December, just so it's on there. So if there are any big religious festivals that impact the flow of life, I'd put those on there. So Christmas, Easter, I put it on there. We used to do October half term and February half term. We used to always go to Norfolk. We don't now, but we'll liaise with little one's dad and see if there's any set weeks or anything he wants to take her away for, so I can put those in. Basically, you're getting the gist of it. It's fairly big things, anything that might disrupt the flow of normal life, and pop those bits in. Moving house, there you go, it's another example. An operation, if you already know you're having an operation in March, then put that in so you've got an idea. And they said you could color code it, splitting it up between the personal, professional, family, home, friends. And you could just use the little different trigger words that I've said there, and for each trigger word you're going to change a pen. So you do birthdays, and then you do anniversaries, and then you do work deadlines, and in theory you won't have any personal deadlines yet. You might not have any work deadlines or work goals yet because we haven't set those goals, but if you've got anything that's already in place, then you might want to put that on. So for me, I always pop on here that in November we do the yearly goal setting. In September we do the September reset. Is it March? I think it was March and October. October's one didn't happen this year, but March's did. March and October I like to do a declutter challenge in the Facebook group, and popping those kind of key bits in, so that we don't forget. Say you really wanted to do something for Valentine's, it could be taking yourself on a Valentine. Kind of like the idea of taking myself to a spa for Valentine's Day, but hopefully maybe someone will offer to take me instead. But put those kind of key things in there. December, I said about Christmas, the one I always forget is New Year's Eve. I haven't done anything for New Year's Eve, like a proper adult thing, in over a decade. So I'm very much doing something for New Year's Eve this year, and will want to do something for New Year's. So I'm going to put on my December Christmas and New Year's Eve. Not worried about New Year's Day. That's just for eating up all the leftovers. But New Year's Eve, I want to have an evening that's not just for me, but yeah, a part of December that's just for me, because the rest of December is about family and friends and things. So I think that's my reclaim bit of that. So for me, I will be putting that in my December box. This then helps us to be that little bit realistic as well. So we will go into this more in some of the other sessions, and just making sure that we've written it all up and setting our deadlines and timeframes, and also when we go into our mind maps for each of the goals, and working out the steps and things like that. It's good to look back on this, but also when you're picking your final goals, which is towards the end of this worksheet. just glance back over this and be like, am I being fair on myself? Like, we like to be challenged. A challenge is good, but am I being fair to myself here? And this is a little bit of a blueprint, kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on. And so, yeah, I tend to put the summer holiday months and stuff in there as well, because I'll know that I'll have a small human with me a lot of the time. It's not a good idea to schedule too much. Like, take care of everything. And then on to starting to think about our goals. So this is where we start to transition those ideas we had into more specific goals. There is further down where we literally break them into SMART goals. And that's more once we've decided which ones we're going with. So what I've done for each of these, so for each of the 3 categories, you've got 2 pages. So that should give you enough space for 6 goals on each page, so 12 goals total for each category. We are only looking for 4, so don't worry if you don't fill up all those spaces. But I thought it was better to have more space than not. So all we want to do is write the goal down, try and make it as specific as possible, but you don't need too much detail at this point, because you haven't, kind of not worth going into too much detail until you've specifically picked it. But write the goal out and then write the reason why. So what does this connect to? Which area are you trying to improve? Is it linking to a core value that you feel really needs attention? Does it link to one of your life goal affirmations? And how and why? Like, it's probably more important to have more detail in the reason why than it is in the goal at this point. Because we will, if this is your chosen one, then we break it down in a couple of pages time. So don't worry about overthinking this bit too much, but it's a goal, more of an idea. So it does need to be relatively realistic at this point. This is where we take the crazy ideas and go, okay, how could I turn that crazy idea I had on the other page into a goal, an actual goal, as opposed to some magical fairy wish thing. Single-use plastic is terrible, but it came in a hotel room I stayed in the other week, and they throw them out otherwise. So I've left my drink downstairs. Yeah. So yeah, make it more. This has got a bit more goal format to it. If it seems absolutely impossible crazy, then it probably needs a little bit of amending. And then going into your reason why is going to be key for helping you select the right ones. Like, deeply understanding, why does this matter to me? So I'm trying to think of an example. At the moment, I am trying to get my 10K time down to sub 45 minutes. I trained really hard for a race a long time ago. And I got to, on race day, so race conditions, you're always going to run faster. It was a fully road run, and I usually trained on a mixture of surfaces. And annoyingly, my clocked time for the event was more than 45 minutes. But because it was running through London, and it was big wide streets, to get around big groups, and some people did it in fancy dress and things, to get around big groups, you'd often be dodging quite a lot more. So I had done 10K pre-40 by the time I got to just before 45 minutes. However, I hadn't got to the finish line of the 10K because I'd spent a lot of it dodging around the streets. And I've learned how to not do that next time. Apparently you're meant to pick the speed when they ask you which speed group you want to go in. You're meant to pick one that's faster than you actually can do, because then they run off all ahead of you and you're left with lots of space. So top tip there if you're planning on doing any kind of running race thing. But at the moment, I really like the idea of, I do love running once I'm out. I find it very, very helpful and clears my brain. 20-minute run is enough to flush your kidneys through. And I used to get loads of kidney infections when I was younger, so looking after my kidneys is pretty key. My friend that passed away in January had lots of problems with her kidneys, so I guess kidneys in the forefront of my mind at the moment. And also just the general cardiovascular fitness and doing something outdoors. So all in all, I've decided that having one run a week, I think, is really, really key for me. But just having all those reasons will not be enough. So I would have a goal of, I want to have a repeatable sub 45 minutes. And obviously I'd have to go into more details when I break it down into a SMART goal, but I want to have a sub 45-minute 10K. And then my reason behind that would be improved mental health, improved physical health, and prove to myself that I can do it again, and force myself out the door on the days I don't want to go for a run because I've got a goal behind it. And all these things could go in that why box. What is my reason why? And have a bit of time to myself, to make sure I'm looking after my heart health. And that, although it's obviously included in looking after your health, saying it's looking after your heart health, is another reason why. So it'd be all those things I could pop into there. It supports one of my core values. It supports my health and fitness core value. It supports one of my life goal affirmations, that's around health and fitness as well. General physical and mental health are both on our sort of key areas of life list as well. So there's lots and lots of reasons why that would be a good one. And so if I put all that in, and then the next goal I don't have very much in the why box. When I come to pick which 4 I'm going with, I'm going to be like, that's got a badass why. That why is really strong. And suddenly it's a lot easier to pick which ones you want to go with. So yeah, really, you need more space, put more space, but that why. So maybe try and write the goal as small as possible at the top, and you've got lots of space to put your why in. But go to town a bit more on your why. It's also quite a handy thing to have for later on. And when you write your yearly goals in your planner, got a happy lifestyle planner, there's a section in there to put in the whys behind the goals, because that's your motivation. And motivation has a habit of waning throughout the year, and willpower has a habit of waning. And if we've got it physically written down, then we can tap back into that willpower. We can tap back into that motivation when we're feeling like, I don't want to go, or I don't want to do that thing, or why am I bothering doing this? You can read back and remind yourself why you want to do it, and then you can make an informed decision. Does that why still stand, or am I ready to let go of this goal? And so I find it very, very, very powerful to have a detailed why with goals, particularly if it's a yearly goal, because see, you've got it for a year ideally. Not that we will hold on to goals if we don't want to. So speaking of run, this is why I've got a little red nose from my run yesterday. Even in this weather, I need to remember to put factor 50 on my nose when I go out running. I've lost my train of thought. That's good, isn't it? Cool. So you use your ideas list to help with this, to prompt the ideas for this. I wouldn't cross anything out on your ideas list though. It can be quite handy to look back on. Like, I will pull out my ideas list from last year when I go through and finish up my ideas for this year. And when I start putting my goals together, I'll have that ideas list out as well from last year. So yeah, don't want to make it illegible. Want to be able to still read those ideas and things. So even if you're like one of them, oh, this is totally crazy, and you feel the urge to scribble it out entirely, don't. But you can make yourself a little code, or that's like a purple star means that it was utterly ridiculous, or something that it's a big no. But make sure you can still read those, because what seems crazy now might not seem crazy in 12 months time. And it's good to have those bits and pieces there. This is the 2 pages we've got for personal, and then we've got to scroll down, literally the exact same thing for professional, digging into those whys, roughly making it a smartish goal, but don't worry, you'll find out more about those in a minute. If you're thinking, what on earth is she talking about? Come back to it, go back to it, look at the year ahead again, go back through all the the worksheets from the first 2 days, and leave the sheet of paper out with some of the goals on and some space for other ones to be written, and come back to it across the rest of the month. Like, this isn't a done and dusted thing in one go. But I've done the same for all the pages. So you've got a space to do 12 in each category. You do not need to. Right? We're looking for 4. So if you do 4 and you think, I can't think of anything else, I really like this 4, then that's it. You're stuck with your, not stuck with your 4, but you've got your 4, and that's fine. So yeah, work your way through thinking about that, your word of the year. Obviously, there's lots of things still, you can still add to all of the previous worksheets, even though you've started this one as well. So it's a bit of a chop and change, and that's why we have the review session, the sort of final session, in a couple of weeks' time as well. And then on to SMART goal. Time to get smart. There are various definitions. This is my preferred one at the moment. Sometimes I tweak it, but this is where it's at the moment. So this can be quite a good, I thought I'll put this onto one big whole page so you can print it off and use it for lots of different things. So specific, create a statement that clearly defines what achieving this goal looks like. So you very much need to know what the completed version of this goal is. And running a sub 45 minute. So for me, that could be that it's 44 minutes and 59 seconds. That's a sub. That's fine. And if it's 2 minutes under, that's also fine. I'm not worried about how fine it is. I was talking to a friend earlier who's a triathlete about this actually, and he's like, oh, I think we could get you to a sub 40. And I was like, I don't want a sub 40 because it would impact lots of other stuff that I want to do. I don't want my fitness training to just become about that one thing. And I think the cheesy phrase I use was like, oh no, that would eat into my gains, which is like such a bloke thing to say, like gym rat, you eat into my muscle gains. So yeah, as long as it's under 45, dead on 45. Yeah, I could do dead on 45. It's sub 45. So it needs to be 44 minutes and something seconds for it to count. So achieving that, and as I'm sticking with this example now, I want to have that as my like standard 10k time across the year. Might be that I don't care about maintaining that anymore after the year, but across the year. So I'm gonna say I need to have done that maybe once in each quarter, or 3 times across the year, something like that. I haven't obviously decided that exact goal yet, but that will be my specific statement for the goal. And it's nice to just have that kind of one key statement, so you know how it's gonna work. And when we're writing out our goals, or if you want to put them on a list up on your wall, when you write them in your planner, it's nice to have that one clear statement that sort of explains what that is. And then you have all the additional ones that will support it. So measurable, make sure the goal, that this goal is, and ideally the progress of the goal, is measurable. So sticking with the running one, because why not? Yes, it's very measurable because the number needs to be 24 point something. The progress can be measurable because I can set myself a reduction as we go along. I've got a map my run app, so I do the run, it's telling me my average, it's telling me which is my faster bits and my slower bits, and it's tracking me the whole way along, so I can measure. I've got measurable steps along my progress, because that makes it easier to manage. What we can measure, we can manage. And so yeah, make sure it's measurable, that you can actually tick, yes, I did, I hit that number, or yes, I went to that many countries, whatever it might be. Achievable, can this realistically be possible considering your lifetime and resources? So having a specific goal of being 5'11" when you're 5'6" is not achievable. Like, even with surgery, you can't expand your legs that much, and that's painful and risky, so I wouldn't recommend it unless there's a medical reason. Um, it's not achievable. This could be for me traveling around the world, spending the whole of the next year traveling around the world. It's not achievable. One, I'm not a massive fan of traveling. So for me personally, for my life, not achievable. Um, I have my small human who's in school and loves routine and structure. So that definitely would make that unachievable. Time, have I got the available time? No, because I like everything I do with my time right now and I don't want to give any of it up. And do I have the resources? No, I certainly do not have the financial resources for that one. It's not always going to be financial. But in lots of cases it is, because most other resources, if you've got the financial, you can then buy. So it would be, if there, say it was a fitness one, stick with the running one of the great resources that I would love to have is a personal running coach. And if that's the only way I'm going to achieve that goal, but I can't afford that, then suddenly it's not achievable. It's not a resource that I can obtain. I'm trying to think of any other, like land. So you needed lots of land for the thing you want to do and you didn't have access to that land. Say you needed someone in a celebrity to endorse you for this goal to happen, and you're like, realistically, it's not achievable. I don't have that resource. It might then be that you could tweak the goal. So let's stick with you've set a goal that requires a celebrity endorsement. You might be like, well, I can't, that's out of my control. And you could then set a different goal that's purely about increasing the chances of a celebrity endorsement, that's got very specific steps in it. So I don't know how you'd increase the chance of a celebrity endorsement off the top of my head. Here we go. When I first moved up to London, my friend said, if you were interested in celebrity spotting or being out and about when celebrities are about, which I wasn't, but she dated Gareth Gates at one point, so clearly she was. If you're interested in that, she said, go out on Tuesdays. Tuesdays is when those that are in shows will have their understudies in. So never book tickets for a show for a Tuesday, apparently, in London, because it'll be the understudy, although quite often they're better. And that could potentially increase one's chances of landing a celebrity endorsement. So you'd be like, right, so my specific goal is I'm going to go out to these 3 places that I know are frequented by my ideal celebrity endorser every Tuesday for the year. That's specific and potentially achievable. If you lived in London, it's potentially achievable. Whereas being like, I need a celebrity endorsement as a resource is not necessarily going to be achievable. I'm trying to come up with different examples so it can like make you sort of think the different ways, because sometimes you think, I don't know, but my goal's not fitness related or height related. How does that apply? So that was me trying to come up with a completely different one. Unfortunately, achievable is often about time and resources. So time and finances predominantly. Do you have / can you make the time to make that goal achievable? Do you have the financials to do it? Yes, there's lots of ways of doing things on reduced budgets, and yes, there's lots of ways of doing things slightly cheaper, and that might take more time or something, but it's still going to cost something somewhere. So just be aware of that. Relevant. This is where we talked about our why. Having all that information about your why is going to be really helpful for this one. How does this connect to my bigger picture, your vision for your life, and who you are? So relevant is your why, making sure you've got lots and lots and lots of details there. The more, the merrier. And then time related, as these are yearly goals, we've kind of got our time frame because it's a 12-month thing. But it's also can be quite handy to break that down more. So when we put our steps in place for our goals, there might be additional ones. But you might look at it and go, well, this is a goal I want to get done this year, but actually I'd like to get it done the first half of this year. And that's where I lose the little, like a quarter. So I'll do a 1/2 or a 1/4. So if I want to get it done by the end of the first quarter, it would be a 1/4. If I want to get it done by the end of the third quarter, it would be a 3/4. If I want to get it done by the halfway mark, I like to keep them all as quarters because it's like the quarter of the year. So I will do 2/4. But if you feel the urge to write a 1/2, you are very welcome. Doesn't make it any less powerful. Just my personal preference is to keep it going in quarters. And it is what it is. But having those additional time related, so what's going to be your time frame for it? Is it the full year? And in fact, if it's the full year, I do write 4/4. But that's also quite handy when we're breaking down the steps. We can decide which chunks need to get done by which quarter for us to achieve whatever overall length of time we've decided on. So then we've got a little sheeties to put them in. So your personal goals, you're going back to these ones up here, picking out the ones that you want, and then you can move them down to here. And I know it feels, and I found this the first year I did this, and I wrote, it's funny, I wrote the first year many years ago that I did this system, and I do tweak it slightly each year. Usually gain more information, and as I always say, every day we wake up a slightly different person. So of course it's going to change, but the repetitiveness of constantly writing out either the same or similar things is really, really helpful. If you can't write your goal out a few different ways, a few different times, what are the chances of you actually achieving it? So at this moment, when you're all motivated to set your goals, if you're like, oh, I can't bother to write that out, listen to what your gut, your brain, your whatever is trying to tell you. It might be telling you need a nap or to go eat dinner first, but if you've done all those things and some of the goals you're like, yeah, it's really fun to write this out, and then this one that you get to, you're like, oh, feels like a ball ache, then question yourself, like, okay, why do I not want to write this out? So I have put 4 in because that's what we're looking for. 1, 2, 3, 4 for each section, and 3, 4 personal goals, 4 in professional goals, and 4 in family goals. And that's all you've got to do for this one. That's it. Just come up with all your goals for the year and turn them into SMART goals. And we will be going into the steps, sort of like breaking them down. That is tomorrow's session. So that's all about planning out the yearly goals and what steps we need to have as part of achieving these things. So that's a job for tomorrow. And then on the 5th session, that's when we fully write them up. So you can write them up neatly. So if you want to print off 2 copies and scribble all over this one and then write them up neatly in that one, for me, writing them up is putting them into my yearly planner. And so I will be getting out. Luckily, I've got a stash of my own planners, so I don't actually need to order a new planner. But if that is a good time, if you need a new copy of that one, I had, until obviously everything happened with this year, is I do want to put this into a workbook version as well. So originally this was meant to be just a book, just the words bits. But there was so much more I wanted it to be. There's so much more I wanted to include, and we had a couple of stressful things happen at the beginning of the year that I wrote this, and I didn't want to let go of the goal, so I adjusted it and made it into the planner. And then I had planned to split this and re-release it again in November, because this came out in November last year, and re-release it in November this year as 2 separate ones, so that you could have the workbook and you could have the book, so that you don't have to buy all the written words each time. So that was like the plan behind it. Obviously it's November now and I haven't done it, and I think we can all agree that's okay. Bearing in mind what else happened. So do grab another, if you do grab another copy if you want to have somewhere to put in those yearly goals and things. You've also got in the downloadable section, there's other sheets that you can print off to do those. But I will be starting over, and I think particularly after this year, I want a fresh planner. If I had a notebook, I'd get a fresh notebook too. Well, I do have my weekly. That's not that old, and I like it still. So for some reason, that's fine. But this, I will be starting a new one of these to write them out. And that is all part and parcel of what we do in session 5. So going over, writing them into those, what other different things we can do to support those, breaking down the deadlines. But that's why we wait for the 5th session and do it right at the end, because as we've talked through each one of these sessions, give yourself some time to process them, think about them, come back to them. I quite often do, particularly these ones where I am narrowing it down to my final 4. We'll do this in pencil, so I can rub it out and things. But you can always just print off an extra page. So if you make a mess of this page, just print another one of whatever number page this is, 14. Just print another number 14. It's fine. The odd extra page is not going to destroy the rainforest. Just have one less burger that week, and that will save more paper. I think I know it will save more paper than one piece of paper, but the equivalent. So don't worry if you make a big mess all over all of your worksheets. You can print extra ones off. It's a-okay. So yeah, that gives you a bit of an insight as well into tomorrow. So tomorrow we are going to be talking about mind mapping for each goal and breaking down our steps. And then when we come back towards the end of the month, we will be finalizing, like making that definitive decision, putting them on our Trello boards. I always say photograph all these bits and pieces that we've done as well, and photograph all of that. To keep it, I prefer keeping mine digitally. My paper one is my planner, and these ones I always photograph and keep them in a folder on my Google Drive. So we'll just talk about that and things. And then also looking at creating our mini lists for December. So are there any particular things we need to get ordered, or resources, or look up, or sign up for a course? Or like I said, sometimes it's nice if there are specific things we need for our goals, that could be a Christmas present. So we don't end up filling our houses up with loads of stuff we don't need, and get actually what we do need. I'm seriously contemplating putting my Amazon wish list on my Tinder profile. On all my profiles, because I can't lie, I'm not only on Tinder now. I feel like that would be fair assessment. I normally buy my own presents. Yeah, literally, we used to do Father Christmas for each other, but I'd pretty much always be buying my own. And then he'd still make a whole effort out of the fact he had to wrap them. Did buy them for you to do that. Anyway, I digress. Really need to record that episode of the podcast about where we're at, because then maybe everyone will be up to date a little bit more, and I'll stop sneaking out these little bits of information. I am hoping to record it tomorrow. I've got a window of time in the morning. Yeah, first thing in the morning. I've had to rejig all my Thursdays because I'm helping with the nativity, so I'm at school for the last 2 hours of her school day, which is normally when I go to the gym, so I've had to rearrange the day. So yeah, first thing in the morning, should be recording the first episode of the new series of the podcast, which will give you a full update on all the gory details, which is fun, because my ex never listened to the podcast before. So if he suddenly decides he wants to listen now, then that's a red ball. Basically. So have an amazing evening. Any questions about today's session? And the same format, I'll get the recording up shortly, and well, I do it before I go to bed, so I'll go and get a few moving around bits done, because I find if I just upload it now and format things now, then I just want to go to sleep, and I've got some painting to do. So I'm going to get my painting done, and then I'll come and snuggle under my blanket and get this up later this evening and I'll also upload the new the next worksheet as well. So the worksheet for tomorrow, and will go up. I will I did upload this one to the website yesterday. I know you said it wasn't showing up, so I'll delete and re-add it, and maybe that'll work. But you got on a WhatsApp group for the moment anyway. I always try and pop them in the WhatsApp group just before the session, which I know isn't very helpful if you're going to print them off. But I find if I do it too soon, people lose them. My Wix won't load now, so I can't actually see. But I'll do that in a minute when I'm not live streaming. Get happy with me. So, any questions in the chat? Oh, fabulous. Do want to get a Christmas Zoom social in the diary for all the club members. I don't think there's any other news really. That's about it. Have an amazing evening. And it was lovely to see you briefly at the end, Claire. And I will see you soon. Ta-ta for now.
All right, thanks, Jess. Have a